we are here with Carey. I'm going to let him kind of do an introduction of himself, and then we're going to kind of get his perspective on radically student-centered. So, Carey, I'll let you take the stage.
Hello, thank you. I'm Carey Upton. I'm the Chief Operations Officer with the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District there in California. So I manage all facilities, all parts of facilities, from the design of buildings through the maintenance.
Awesome. And you reminded me that this is kind of you coming back. We're kind of doing a reunion podcast here. How long ago was it when you were on? It seems like maybe that was a year
Year or
and a
2
half?
years ago, yeah. Aaron and I came and talked about our 21st century furniture project where we replaced all of the furniture in the classrooms in the school district.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I'll have to kind of go back because I feel like, if I'm remembering right, that was one of our biggest episodes of that year. So, well, thanks for being back on. What we're doing here at LearningSCAPES is we're talking about radically student-centered. That's kind of the theme for the conference here. So we want to ask you, if you could kind of interpret that yourself, how would you define radically student-centered, just in your own sense?
Yeah, that's something that we're really committed to here in our district, and that really shifting from a teacher-based, teacher-driven learning, in some ways a more, hierarchical learning, to a student-driven learning, to students really finding their own way, what they need to learn, how they learn, and exploring different ways of learning. This is something we're very committed to, and we find that not only does that happen in the pedagogy, but it happens really in the facilities can encourage that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, now going into day to day, we kind of have the wheel. It's a fun little way. And what you landed on was, how do you move conversations from what adults want to what best serves students? So maybe that kind of ties into maybe the community aspect, that outside noise. When you're kind of like looking at that, how do you kind of take this back and say, we're going to do what's best for the students, not necessarily what parents are kind of saying on the outside noise? How do you kind of take that in your own sense?
What's fun and interesting is that for a lot of ways, the parents sort of get it and embrace it a little bit more, if for no other reason than they think their kid is different and special than every other, so therefore their learning must be different and special. I have a little bit more challenge with our teachers.
Really?
And that our teachers, they've been teaching the way they teach, and a lot of it, a lot of them were trained very much. I'm going to be standing in front of you, and I'm going to be imparting this information, and I have to be spending a lot of energy on classroom management and making sure that everybody is focused and everyone's doing things. And so when we introduced classrooms that also have like common areas right outside, or classrooms that were big enough that could move the furniture around, and movable furniture that could really work in different modalities of learning, some of our teachers embraced it right away. Other teachers were not into it, really not for it, especially like the idea that there might be windows looking into their classroom. But once we sort of threw them into that setting, the building sort of taught them and taught everyone how to use it. And the students were the ones who drove it. Because oh, you're assigning me to work on this thing. Well, why can't I go right out there where there's nice soft seating, where I could be there working with my team here instead of here? And then that started to open up the idea that we could be really giving the students more encouragement and assignment to find their own way of learning. And the teacher's position is not so much to be the person who brings learning to them, but the person who encourages them to find their own ways of learning.
Oh, man, that's a great answer. And I kind of like the way you worded that, because I kind of hear it, a lot of even the discussions here today is you got to kind of find those change makers. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're talking about too, if like there's those change maker teachers that you kind of have that's going to be kind of talking. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
completely. And and we have a sort of a direction from both the superintendent and ed services and everybody of where we want to go. And having those teachers who are the real guides who pick it up does help. But what I've loved is that, particularly middle school, high school, where the kids move around, the teacher, they then work with a teacher who's being a little bit more progressive and allowing them to do a little more. Then they go back to those teachers who are a little more reticent, and they encourage it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, now, kind of wrapping this all back, I want to kind of hear radically student-centered. How do you kind of think that mindset and that shift is going to be taking place over the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you kind of see that, especially in your district where you're at?
I see it's really already occurring, and it's moving. What I'm interested in is that not only do students find their most natural and way of learning, the one that they're most drawn to, but they're also challenged to continue to learn in different ways. Because we used to have a system that it was one size fits all. This is the way you're going to do it. This is the way you're going to learn. This is the way it's going to happen. But as we develop more into sort of more project and personal based learning, I don't want the kid who's just like, I'm the introvert and I'm just going to stay in my own little box to just stay there. I want to challenge them for other ways of learning. And the kid who's going to be bigger is like, well, maybe you need to spend a little time by yourself. So we really find a way that all kids become a little more well-rounded and become challenged in their learning.
That's actually a really interesting perspective, because you hear it a lot where it's like, especially like when we are designing schools and looking at that, we're trying to kind of cater to all the different types of learners. But what you're kind of saying too is we're going to also challenge them to kind of get out of their comfort zones and try different types of learning. Is that kind of the correct interpretation there?
Absolutely the right interpretation. And I mean, I have to say I come from it because, most people who will know me now would not believe it, but I really was deeply an introvert. And through school and even into college in my 30s, I was an introvert. And now, I'm the person who's doing all the podcast and saying hello to everybody, and I'm very out. But because of, in some ways, being challenged early on to both be more expressive, then I could find other aspects of myself. And I could be, I could become much more fully well-rounded, fully human, having a full experience of life. And I think that's what we want for our students.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that perspective. So, well, thank you, Carey. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to touch on? Anything that you wanted to talk about today that I missed?
I think that's a lot of it, but I think that, when we meet our students where they are and allow them to be who they are, who they want to learn, what they want to learn, they find something, then they become more engaged and they go farther. And that's what we want to do.
Man, I love it. Well, thank you so much. Just kind of wrapping this up with Carey on our LearningSCAPES episode. So thank you so much for joining.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much.